One of my business partners, name's Paul Latham, had a really interesting comment the other day, which is, he said, most of the advisors and accountants running around out there, they're schizophrenic because they don't understand the difference between efficiency and effectiveness when it comes to running their business. I thought that was a really interesting idea, and it took me a minute to think about, first of all, what's the difference between these two, but what in the world is he talking about? As a way of background, he's an accountant by trade. He grew his accounting firm, had over 250 people working for him, and ultimately sold it for over $45 million. The point he was making is that people don't recognize that you essentially have two different ways of running a practice. You can be focused on efficiency, which is like a factory, right? Then you need a major division or wall between these. And then you can focus on boutique. Boutique needs to be effective. Efficiency versus effectiveness, a really easy analogy to understand the difference between the two. Efficiency is how fast you can get up the ladder, right? From the bottom to the top of the ladder, how fast can you climb the rungs? That's effectiveness. The more effective you are, the quicker you'll get up. Efficiency is to think about whether or not that ladder is even leaning up against the right wall that you want to get to the top of. If the ladder is leaning up against the wrong wall, it doesn't even matter how efficient you are because you're just getting to where you don't want to be quicker, okay? So the reason why you need to think about your business with two distinct divisions is because there's a major difference between what we should be focusing on if we're trying to be efficient, i.e. running a factory, or if we're trying to be effective, i.e. running a boutique practice. A factory is really focused on essentially commodities. Commodities. And the price is relatively fixed. Right? There's kind of there's a market floor and ceiling that people are going to be willing to pay. What's an example of this? It could be a tax return. Tax return, not a tax plan or tax planning. That would be over here. I'll show you in a second. A tax return is a relatively fixed commodity. An insurance product, right? An insurance product. Products typically are relatively fixed. You can get them in the marketplace. A security, if you're buying or selling a stock. These are run by what should be thought of as factories. It's based on how much output can I get out there and how efficient can my team do it. Can I have less people and sell more products? Can I pay them less and sell more products? If so, I'm running a more profitable factory. Now, boutique division, it's the opposite. It's not at all commodity. It's really focused on unique value. Let's say unique. Offering unique value. Where does that look like? Well, planning is a very good example of that. Not necessarily a financial plan, but I'm talking a business succession plan, a business advisory, proactive planning, a tax plan, something where the price is not predetermined by the marketplace. The price is really determined by the amount of value. And the more value, the more you can charge, right? Could I charge 75 grand for a tax return? For a single tax return? Probably not. No, I don't think so. Most people maybe are going to pay $400, $600, $800, right? Now, could I charge 75 grand for a tax plan or a business plan? Maybe. Why would somebody be willing to pay that much money? 75 grand, right? Well, if you're working with, let's say, a high net worth individual, and last year they paid $1.2 million in tax, and you were able to help them to drop that down in half to $600K, would they be willing to pay you 75 grand? Let me ask you. If somebody saved you 600 grand, would you be willing to pay them 75? Of course, right? Every day. Now, what if you were working with a business owner and you were to help them 10x their company, right? And they did 300K, and you were able to, over the course of a few years, help them build that value to 3 million. Would that be worth 75? Of course, 100%. So the boutique, you have a lot more flexibility in terms of what you charge because it's based on the value. And the more value you can learn to deliver, the more you can charge. So here's the key takeaway. Not necessarily that one is better than other. You probably can tell my bend is towards this. But the same business can do both. You can have a business that's incredibly efficient, runs a factory, and is very profitable. You can have a business that is incredibly effective, runs a boutique style practice, and is incredibly profitable. You can actually have one business that runs both a factory and a boutique. Two different divisions, but they need to be clearly thought of as two different divisions with two people, at least, running them. You, as the one individual watching this video right now, you, my friends, regardless of how good you are, you should not try to run both. You shouldn't. Because you need to think of what happens if you are focused simultaneously on efficiency and effectiveness. You're not going anywhere. That's where the schizophrenic advisor, schizophrenic accountant comes in, because on Monday, you're trying to be incredibly efficient, right? Really well organized. Everything's about the KPIs and faster and better and more output. And then on Tuesday, you come in and you put on your boutique hat, your efficiency hat. And on Tuesday, you're slowing down and you're thinking about creativity, planning, value. How do I bring more? And then back on Wednesday, now you're incredibly schizophrenic because you're running around as fast as you can and getting output. And then on Thursday, now you're trying to, again, slow down and be more focused on the bigger picture vision, adding more value. And on Friday, you're burnt out, you're upside down, you don't know which one you should do. This is typically where I see somebody spends a year trying to build something and they're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And after the year, they have not very significant results to show for it. They'd be much better off if they say, the way I'm wired, I like spending my time on this. Or, I like spending my time on this. I'm going to focus here. All they need to recognize is this needs to be what your business does, or you need to have a business partner or a manager that focuses on this. Or if you're going to be the one that focuses on the proactive planning, the holistic planning, better clients, more value, no problem. But don't try to do this as well. Have a business partner, have an employee, a manager, somebody else offer these services. Don't try to do both at the same time. You run the risk of becoming schizophrenic. So you heard it first. This was my warning. Don't let people say you weren't warned. Don't do both at the same time. If you found this concept helpful, give it a thumbs up below. Let me know if you have any comments or initial feedback after watching it in the comments section below. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful.